All right, test 1, 2. Does this work?
1, 2.
That's good. Check that out.
Test 1, 2. Test 1, 2.
Action.
Building a small fleet, whether it's 10 to 25 trucks. Were you not ready?
No, I'm ready. I was.
Oh, man, I tell you. Building a fleet of trucks, whether it's 10 to 25, there's many ways to do that. But before we get into that video, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Make sure you smash that like button.
Yeah, follow us all over social media, Facebook, YouTube, Rumble. I just created an account on Rumble. And yeah, stay tuned for real trucking updates.
All right, so check it out. There's a lot of experience right here in this room. And so here's a question. Maybe it can help somebody who's out there. It could serve as advice. How to build a small fleet. I know, Mike, you were in a position where you were growing. Did you do it under your own authority, or was it best to do it under somebody else's authority?
I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what your goal is. In my opinion, I've tried everything. So at some point, I had a small fleet of trucks under somebody else's authority as a fleet owner, and I think that was all right for that period of time. But again, I believe it's all about what you want to accomplish and what is the bottom line goal is. If you're trying to build an actual company, I think you guys start as early as one truck.
Okay. How about you, Jerome?
Well, Mike said a mouthful, and again, it's all about what you're trying to accomplish, to whether you want to build that fleet under your own authority. Sometimes you can start slow with that one truck, because it gives you an opportunity also to learn as you go type deal. So as you build, you're learning along the way. So again, everybody's a little different. Some comes in with a lot of experience and can build quicker than others. Some doing it for the first time. So they're a little slow. But again, trying to build that experience as you go is important. So sometimes you put it on with a company, or if you have that experience, you can start your own authority. But again, it varies.
And I agree. I think it varies. One of the biggest variables to it, in my opinion, is going to be the other side of that coin. Is not just the trucks, but actually the drivers, right? So a lot of people, how can you get drivers? Do you have work? What type of drivers are you targeting? So if you're trying to build your book of business around guys who want to be home every day, or super, super regional, real tight to the house, and you're trying to accommodate all of these things for these drivers that you can source, how do you find work for that?
Well, again, like you said, it's a lot of school of thoughts there. But, as you said, trying to find these guys, if you're trying to be an over-the-road carrier, as you build your own authority, you're not going to always find quickly guys that want to be over the road. So you have a diverse of guys that's out there. So it's trying to vet and find the ones that you need based on what you want your company to be or look like.
Right, but I mean, and I get it. You need the drivers to drive the trucks, and that sounds good on the surface. But on the other side, how much is there profit in there for you? I mean, if you do a dedicated lane for a certain carrier and you build up to 6 trucks, those trucks are limited to the amount of turns they can do.
Yeah, and I also think in that specific scenario, again, everything that we talk about, I believe it's every specific scenario is so specific, because the example that you just mentioned, if you build a fleet of, let's say, 6 trucks, hauling something dedicated for this one specific carrier, now, if that's business sustainable, it's all good. It's amazing. You just stick with that. However, from a different perspective, if you're looking to maybe chip off that carrier and start your own business, the biggest challenge, at least in my opinion, now I see is going to be your drivers, because the chances of you keeping that same lane is close to zero.
Exactly.
So now, right away, you're trying to chip in away from a carrier, and you're losing probably all your drivers, because if you're going to tell the driver who has been doing the same thing over and over and over again, hey, bro, we're going now and we're going to do spot market or whatnot, the chances that this driver is going to knock on your current carrier's door and be like, hey, do you have any trucks available? Because I'm not going anywhere with this guy. I can see that
That's
problem.
the truth. It happens.
I can see that problem happening. So it's a challenge, I think. Again, it depends what you're trying to accomplish. Are you trying to build a company? Are you trying to grow? Are you trying to grow as a fleet owner? There are multiple scenarios that we can be, touching on.
So with that being said, Mike, would it be fair to say, as you began your business, to be certain on what direction you want to take it, to not even get in the situation that you just said?
I think here's what I think. And I think, first of all, ideally, you want to know what you're trying to accomplish from the beginning. This is why I say there is no such thing as too early. I've seen people commenting in the comments, like how many trucks do you need to start my own company or whatnot. I think if you're down for a challenge and if you're down to start your own company and build your own company, you can start with one truck.
Yeah, that's a business. That's a company.
Because then once you get to those 6 trucks, you don't have that problem to solve where your 6 trucks are tied up into something that you cannot have. Another thing that I would strongly say, spot market is probably the only way, the only reasonable way. Because I think in a spot market, to start a business and to grow the business, you have to be very, very flexible. There is nothing more flexible than spot market.
Right.
So in that case, you can work a spot market. You can, let's say, if you have a really, really good driver that, okay, he wants to be home every day. See if you can work spot market around it. But that gives you an opportunity. Other than, your regular customer, if you had one, it's going to be very, very strict, and he's not going to be willing to adapt around every different driver of yours. And the drivers are gold these days, so you kind of have to adapt to it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I even take want to spend a little bit more time on the first point of that, because I think you first have to decide when you open this business, how much of it do you really want to accept and run? Like, you're either going to do it all, or you're willing to be that guy that gives your trucks to that company to dispatch. That has to be your first decision, because like you said, I don't think you can change the game in the 9th inning. You built to 5 trucks. You've never personally dispatched those 5 trucks, and now you're going to go play that game. It's a gamble. It's going to be a definite gamble.
In my opinion, that's the most important question that needs to be answered. Because even right now, okay, I've been a driver, I've been an owner operator, I built up my own company, I've been dispatching and doing all that stuff. Okay, now my first question is, if I was gonna go back and just be an owner operator, this is what I want to do. I don't want to be dealing with safety. I don't want to be dealing with nothing else. I just want to run my truck to the max ability of its potential. And I don't want to get involved with no DOT audits, insurances, and claims, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
What I would do, if this is my goal, and maybe I want to have a couple of trucks that's still within that ballpark. And at that point, I would probably lease onto the carrier. At this time, just knowing what I know now, I would probably not even get my own plates. I would not even get my own IFTA. With one rule. The rule is that I have to trust the carrier. It has to be a decent carrier that we're doing the work that I'm willing to do. And I would be a long timer there. And that's it. And that's you just develop that relationship and you grow your little fleet. But only if that's your limit right there. If you just don't want to get involved in other things, then yes. But if you want to build a company, then again, it's a different ballgame.
Well, yes, it's a completely different ball game that you got to be ready to know what you're doing and be able to take on that responsibility, as you clearly said earlier. Because starting own business, we're talking opinions, starting to own your own business, particularly if you're a one-man show, trying to do all the things that you just said earlier from a safety standpoint, if you get audited on that, that's tough. And to be able to keep your eye on your drivers, because that driver is an important commodity for you. As you said, I know I'm repeating things, but I can't say it, too many times. I don't believe that starting out, even if I know what I know, trying to make sure that I'm creating some time for myself to manage my business, I have to put it on to a carrier that I trust, that I can believe that shares in my goals. Because there are carriers out there, if you have goals and ideas, that there's carriers out there that fit that. Spot market, like you said, is so flexible, because you're not in bed with anybody per se. You can zig and zag and move how you want to and create your own the way you see it, with even individual. If you got 5 guys, you can still, with the spot market, create individuality with the 5 and not have to do the same thing with all of them, and still be able to keep that driver based on what that driver wants to do and your agreement with that driver.
Right. And I guess because one of the biggest things is the experience in the room, right? So I get it. You never drove a truck, Mike, you have, but I think We've all spent enough time in this game to understand what it means to really run a trucking company. There are individuals out there that will mean something different because for them, what's on their plate, their mission, their goal, I get constant calls all the time. It might be a chiropractor, a warehouse manager, someone who just wants to create some type of passive income, whether that's right or wrong. I'm not here to talk about that right now, but then you have to spend money to make money. So leasing those trucks on for that guy who has something else going on, it can be chaotic. I understand that. And I'm not saying it's right, and I'm saying I would do it, but I am saying that in their vision, they're trying to build that trucking company where they can just say, here's these 10 trucks, make that happen. And not so much just sit back and collect the money, but manage where they can.
Yeah, you have everything I need.
Exactly.
If I have a truck and I'm building a company, and I know I have, and if I decide that I want to do my own authority, I got to think about the safety aspect of the business. I have to think about the maintenance aspect of the business. There's a lot of pieces that I need to think about just outside of just owning a truck and having to drive it. Well, you already have that.
Yeah.
So, and you're the resident expert because you have people in these departments that manages that piece. Okay, so why do I need to be a one-man band to try to be everywhere? Even if I know it, I can't be an expert at everything at the same time.
Right.
But you do this day in and day out. So whatever percentage I have to pay you or whatever that fee is to pay you to do that is minimal based on what I would have to do, that I'm not going to be able to do everything well. So if I start with one truck and now I'm trying to get 2 trucks, get 3 trucks, when do I get time to do that piece?
Yeah. Well, let's spend some time on, all right, let's imagine that there's guys, right? Let's say you got 10 trucks. How do you place them? What's a good idea for that guy who's willing to lease these trucks on to somebody else? He does not want to be burdened with running an entire trucking company. He just wants to lease them on. Some people scatter their trucks throughout different companies. Some people keep them all with one company. What would you do?
Again, we talked about, there's several school of thoughts, and it really doesn't mean any of them are wrong. It's what you want. My opinion, would I put all my trucks in one place? Yes, if it fits my profile. Maybe. But also it goes back to, if it's an over-the-road carrier that I have that potentially I could put these 10 trucks on, I have to find 10 guys that's willing to go over the road. Mm-hmm. That's not easier said than done. Not only that, but if I put 10 trucks in one company, I don't know their financials. I just hope the financials is good. They're not going to share their financials with me. So what if a year down the line, now they come in and say, hey, Jerome, I got to close my doors because now I got to find somewhere else to put 10 trucks, not 2 trucks, not 1 truck. I got to find somewhere to put 10 trucks. So now my business is hit hard because even if I find someone, just the transition of bringing them from this place to that place is not going to cost me. That's a loss that I'm not going to be able to recover. So
fair enough. How about you, Mike?
I agree to Jerome. If the carrier fits my profile, that would be fine. I understand the risks because, what if the carrier closed down the doors and says, sorry, we don't need those trucks anymore. What if the carrier closed down the doors and you never get that final paycheck?
That too.
And you still owe money to the drivers.
Yeah.
So that's another real scenario that can be very, very real. Mm-hmm. And I agree. At the end of the day, I would say if the carrier matches my profile of my expectations, I would not be just putting trucks all over the place just for the sake of it. But the security, financial security would be one of the things. Another of the things would be obviously to making sure my trucks are busy. If I would choose the single carrier for more trucks, I would probably, even if that carrier has some regular customers, I would still probably consider carrier who at least does some spot market. That would give me an opportunity to hire different kind of drivers. Maybe this driver wants to do more of this, that driver wants to do more of that. Mm-hmm. So if I can find a financially stable carrier that does a good job that I am willing to do with my trucks and gives me flexibility, that's all right. That's all good.
Yeah. Nobody asked me, but I would put all my trucks
what about you?
I'd put them all with Voyager. No, just kidding.
No, Voyager is a good company.
Absolutely.
I don't.
It's a good company. The city is not about Voyager.
I think one of the biggest things I would also look for, I agree with you guys, but I also, not only with the stability, I think if the company would be 100% owner operator, or if they had company trucks, I would have to dwell on that a little bit, simply because I've seen a lot in the past. Once company trucks enter that same arena with the owner operators, and
Different
that's
ball game.
yeah, that's that. Man, you're going to compete at some point for freight. You're going to compete at some point for drivers, and who went from who and who took who, and let's be friends, and better than losing a driver. I don't know. That would be a big one for me. Would definitely be. I would look for 100% owner operator company.
That would be my priority, but that would not be a deal breaker. It really depends mostly on the profile of the carrier, because maybe that carrier does the regular spot market with owner operators and has some specific account that with some local guys just doing the company trucks, and that would be fine. But yeah, the challenge that you just mentioned is real. It can become a problem, but it's not a blanket problem. It's more of a profile problem, potential problem that can happen. Yes.
So even if I had trucks, maybe 5 trucks spread out over 2 companies, as I get to understand and learn and trust one company, maybe I will begin to start migrating. But it's important to get comfortable with where you are, understand them, they understand you, and as we as the years go by and we continue to get this trust and this trust factor, and we understand stability, then I can give you more and more of the truck, because now I'm getting to know you as a company better. You're getting to know me, so it's all about sustainability at the end of the day. Going in and initially to say, hey, I got 10 trucks, I'm gonna give you 10, and we don't even know each other. I don't know what's gonna happen down the line. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but again, it's all about opinion. And I would like to get to know you and you get to know me, and to make sure that this is a good fit for not only myself, but the both of us, and the driver as well.
Or how about this? I'll put 10 trucks with you.
Mm-hmm.
You bring me into the office instead of me being some warehouse guy or some teacher or chiropractor somewhere else. You bring me into the office. You teach me to dispatch, and I'm a dispatcher of my own trucks, plus maybe some of the owner operators for a company at the same time. Everybody wins.
There you go. That works. Because you get to see them every day.
You get paid as a dispatcher on top of everything else, and you're in charge.
Yeah, you learn. So there's no mysteries. You get to see it. It's all out front. You get to learn, because maybe, like Mike said, it's a brilliant idea. How many people do such a thing? I think it's fair. You're going to bring me 10 trucks, and then I'll allow you to dispatch them. They're your trucks.
Because you would still pay our dispatcher anyway, so why not pay this guy? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's a good
idea.
idea.
A brilliant idea.
Hey, if you think that's a good idea, call me. 863-342-5171. Don't beep this out. He's going to edit this. But again, that would only work if the initial decision was made, I'm invested, I'm going to do this 100%, not from the sideline.
Absolutely.
It's got to be that individual that's willing to give up that job that they're cushy in order to go take this journey. Right.
But I think that would probably be a lot more beneficial, because, if you ask me, I'm not a big believer of some chiropractor buying trucks and all of a sudden meeting success. I think that scenario is very, very much likely to fail just due to the lack of knowledge about the business.
Yeah, because you know what?
And I'm not negative. I'm positive. Like, heck yeah, go for it. It's all good. And some people making it. I'm just saying there is a risk. Consider it.
Right.
Yeah, because even if I've seen time and time again, you'll have Amazon people that, boom, they grew to 5-6 trucks easy. Why? Because they came in right prior to that peak season. And Amazon is just like the FedExes and UPSs of the world. They're going to ramp up for that peak season. And it was all gravy. Pockets were deep enough to make that happen. They could talk the talk, and they got some drivers in those trucks. But once volume adjusts back to normal, and now there's not enough work, you start scrambling, and you get those phone calls. You'll get them around that February, March area. You're going to get those phone calls. They're scrambling to try to keep these guys employed at whatever cost.
That's why nothing beats the spot market. Nothing beats it. It's been around for some time now. Seen a few different models. Nothing beats spot market, because you can adjust. When it adjusts, you can adjust. A lot of things out there, when it adjusts, Normally you have to adjust downward with it, and it's not conducive. So now you got to move your truck over here to what you was accustomed to before. Anytime you're moving trucks, you're losing. I don't care what you say. Somebody else may think different. If I move my truck over here, I don't have that money because there's some time I have to wait before I get it. Then I got to earn money on this side. It's just so complicated. That's why spot market is, in my opinion, the best thing you can do. All I have to do is train my driver that when North Carolina rates different, you got to go over here because the money is still out there. I can grow my business like that. But any other model, I can only just hope and pray that the business stay in an upward scale.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. And things are always in life.
Yeah.
Up and down, up and down.
yeah. And once you're in that, and again, the biggest 50% of this is finding that right driver. That driver is
and at the same time, let's not forget that we're talking about entrepreneur spirit here. So any big customer, any dedicated freight, it's not about your entrepreneurship. It's about your big customer that you're serving, really. Once you enter spot market, everything is about opportunity and everything is about entrepreneurship. Mm-hmm. Because it's so flexible that you can just do whatever. You find a good driver who you never did Florida to North Carolina and back. All of a sudden, you find a good driver who's willing to do that and just that. In a spot market, you can adjust. And then you can see if it's worth it for you or not. That's another question. But it's not the same as you have a customer that you have to move a freight from Florida to Texas, and now you have this driver who wants to go Florida to North Carolina. You can't even talk to this driver because you don't have it. The customer only has Texas. And here we go.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's people that are successful in their own way. Everybody has a different journey. But make sure you drop comments below. Tell us your story. We'd be glad to share that.
Follow us on social media and stay in touch.